Okay, and our next speaker is Hanareia Ehau-Taumaunu. Hanareia is an indigenous Maori plant pathologist from New Zealand currently studying toward her Ph.D. at Penn State University. Welcome, Hanareia.
Kia ora mai tātou. Ko hukurangi te maunga, ko waiapu te awa, ko nuku tā memeha te waka, ko Māui te tangata, ko Ngāti Porou te iwi, ko Hanareia Ehau-Taumaunu ahau. I ngā reo, i ngā mana, i ngā karangatanga maha, tēnei rā te mihi atu kia koutou, kua tai mai nei ki tēnei huhui, whakahirahira, i tēnei rā, a te mihi hoki ki ngā tangata whenua, o tēnei wāhi, nō reira kei te mihi kia koutou katoa. Kia ora, hello, I am Hanareia, and I just described my place in nature. I described my mountain, my rivers, the canoe that brought me to New Zealand, and then also the people that connect to those places. So I just wanted to say that as Māori, as Indigenous people worldwide, we connect to our local place, like Jason just said, because we are all one. And just a quick thing, that the knowledge that I'm going to share with you is that what I have learned, and that is not to take away from anyone else who are Māori that might have a different view on things. So today I'm going to talk to you about Tūhononga, which is the interconnection of Māori and nature. So when my tipuna, my ancestors, first arrived in Aotearoa, New Zealand, we used science to prosper and survive in a new area as we had come from Hawaii Nui. They navigated by the skies on their canoes, we harvested by the moon and the weather patterns, and we also discovered new crops and technologies so that we could live as one with our islands that we call home. So we actually have a lot of historical knowledge in terms of our ecosystems and how we can work together with them. And this is the knowledge that has been passed on to me. So I wanted to start off first with explaining what Whakapapa is. Whakapapa is the genealogical links that we all have. And for Māori, Whakapapa is our genealogical connections to our environment, whether it is an animate or an inanimate object, and so we all descend as living things. And so for us, we are actually made of the earth. The first person is actually from the sand that our atua created. And so we are part of this world, and when it is our time, we end up returning back to the earth. So this, I don't want to call it a concept because it's just a thing that exists for us, but Whakapapa is pretty much the essential way that we see the world. And through Whakapapa, we actually learn our Matauranga Maori. This is our own way of knowledge that is passed on from one another and encompasses everything within our culture and encompasses everything within our culture as well. And so Matauranga Maori is the body of traditional and contemporary knowledge about the world, both physical and spiritual, that is held by my people. It is the process by which information is observed, tested, interpreted, and built on, and is handed down through the generations. It is inseparable from our culture, our values, and our beliefs. And as I've already said, and I will continue to say, that Māori are connected with nature because we are part of them, as the previous speakers before in my session have told us. And so Matauranga Maori drives back from the many years that we have been there. And just to give you an example of such knowledge, we have experts in the region that I'm from that have learned about weather forecasting. And so once upon a time, we could actually predict a flood that was going to happen probably in a time span that would be way quicker than we can today. And this was based on indicators. You know, we were using our environment to kind of give us an idea of what it was telling us, and we were actually learning from it. And so we use many indicators, especially trees. Trees are very important. We have a lot of native flora and fauna that you can't find anywhere else in the world. And we were using these as indicators to see, you know, what is going to be coming and that we could learn from it and we could prepare for it. However, since we've had many other people come to our great country, much of that knowledge has been lost through colonization and many other mechanisms, but also the disappearance of those indicators. We are losing our trees. And so we can no longer potentially use the knowledge that has been passed down for many generations because of the differences in our environment. However, as people, we can adapt, and we have been adapting to still pass on the knowledge that we are collecting from our environment to the next generation. And as we know, weather patterns are becoming more extreme and more severe as we are learning in the Southern Hemisphere with the fires and the floods that we're having. Indigenous knowledge needs to be a part of the way that we're learning about environment and not to leave us out anymore. And so yes, I'm talking about the knowledge that I hold and that I have learned, but I just wanted to say that the concept of knowledges, in contrast to a single knowledge, assumes that there's multiple ways that we can see the world. There are many perspectives in this room alone that just so far has been inspiring, and I think innovations can definitely come out of this room alone, and imagine if everyone else saw it that way too. So just acknowledging that everyone has their different knowledges and their different beliefs, and that we can still come together with nature to be one as we see ourselves. And so one way of passing on our Matauranga, sharing our Whakapapa, is through Puako. Some say this in English is storytelling. But for us, Puako is an integral part of Matauranga Maori and is one of the main ways that we actually communicate our histories, the wars that we've had, the people that we've met, the relationships that we've made with the mountains and the animals and the insects and the soil and the waters. And it kind of tells us of how we have lived in the past, because we have a main saying is that we look to our past to look forward to the future. And we are constantly told this as we're growing up within our communities. And so Puako is one way that is told to us. And as you can see here, there is kind of a description that one of my matua, my kaumatua, my elders has passed on, that it is a deliberate construct employed to encapsulate and condense into easily understood forms of our knowledge in relation to our atua, our deities, the universe, so not just thinking about nature as what we see, but also everything else that is in the world, and then amongst ourselves. So Puako is the fundamental way to understand our world. I don't think I'd be here without them. And amongst them, they have a lot of codified knowledge, metaphorical and literal meanings. Our people were very poetic, but we were only poetic because of the nature we had around us. So Puako for me is very key to who I am and to how I got here. And so through Puako, we are able to learn things, including the Mitaka. And so the Mitaka is the traditional Māori lunar calendar that we follow to frame our sense of time and the seasons that we go through. We use this as a predictive tool for many activities that has continued the success of our hapus in the multitudes of challenges that we face. And as you can see here, this is very different to the northern hemisphere in terms of seasons. But our Mitaka is linked to the natural lunar rhythms and our environmental changes, for which for us begins in late May to June with the risings of the Matariki constellations and the stars. And so we were still using our environment to give us those indicators of how should we live our lives and how should we protect what is life all around us. And so each month has multiple tohu, so multiple signs that we are to look out for and to care for. And so there is the tohu or te taia, which is looking at our environment, te tohu or te moana, so looking at our freshwater reserves, but also our seas. New Zealand, we're surrounded by our great oceans, and so that is a key resource for many hapu and iwi, so many tribes and sub-tribes. And then lastly, there's the tohu, tohu o te ātea. So it's the atmosphere and the environment that it's around us. So looking further than what we can just see with our eyes. And for the Mitaka, this is very important for us. It is a way that we can prosper in terms of forming resources for ourselves, but it also is a sign of danger. So it's a way to keep everyone, including ourselves and everything in nature, safe while we are interacting in the world around us. So this is a very key concept to Māori people. Another concept of Matauranga Maori that I think is really important for this symposium is Maori. Maori is the soul that is in everything that is on this earth. So I have a Maori, you have a Maori, the plants outside have a Maori, the rocks that are within the plants have a Maori. And this is kind of the essential life force that we all are part of. And because we all come from the same thing, then we all share Maori. And as you can see, many people have taken to show that Maori is a pervasive concept, and it is holistic, it is scientific, and it is measurable. For us, it's just a way of life. So none of this really matters to me. But I just wanted to show that, you know, people have tried to think of this a way that others could potentially understand and see our way of life. And so you can see that it's, as I said, it's in everything for us that is within our powers to see and not to see. Again, it's the physical and the spiritual. And then really, if you don't think something is alive, it is likely to be supporting you in some way anyways. And so therefore it has the Maori as well, because it supports the life that we have here in all different forms. So Maori is the universal concept, along with Whakapapa, that binds us to where we are today. And so thinking about that everything has a life force, that we are all connected, how do we as humans be a part of that kind of circle of life thing, that we are not the center of our universes, but we are one with the universe? And so kaitiakitanga is very key to that. And so I've broken down the word in terms of its meaning. So kaitiakitanga starts with tiaki. Tiaki is the main part of this word. It is to guard, to keep, safeguard, and protect. Then we add the kai to that. It means that we are the actors of the tiaki. And then kaitiakitanga turns into guardianship. And so for many of us, kaitiakitanga, as you can see at the bottom, is the intergenerational system sustainability in Te Ao Māori framework. So this means that we are all guardians no matter when we exist. Everyone must take their part in protecting what is around us, whether you see it or not, because what happens here can easily affect someone elsewhere. So kaitiakitanga is a thing, is a knowledge system that I said is generational. And it's another way that we actually communicate our knowledge. This is the way that we can enact the knowledge that we have been passed on, and is continual from one another. And because we are part of our environment, how we care for our environment is very reciprocal in how the environment treats us. Because without our environment, we would not be here. Whether you think of that scientifically or as a Māori person myself. And so this innate relationship that we have with our environment is key. And this knowledge system kind of embodies a wealth and wisdom of the earth, because the earth is who we're learning from. We can learn from one another, but our knowledge came from somewhere, and for a Māori, it came from the Mother Earth, the Sky Father, and all of their children. And that is what makes our world today. We can also attach kaitiakitanga to the concept of resource management, which many of us might know about. Because we are trying to look after our environment for future generations. We are always thinking of te rā ua pōpō, the day that is coming tomorrow. because we won't be here forever, and we always want to make sure that our mokopuna, our grandchildren, and their children are going to be looked after as the way we have been. And so for many of us, we are getting into this field of resource management to make sure that we have a seat at that table that is making the decisions that have left us out for too many years. And then when we come back to Māori, kaitiakitanga pretty much is restoring the Māori. Unfortunately, through colonization, a lot of things have happened to our country, to our land, to our waters, and we're trying to restore the Māori of all those things. Because without Māori, then they're not connected to the world that we are a part of. And so we need to make sure that everyone has their Māori intact. Because without it, they will be lost, and we don't want anyone to be lost because we're all in this journey together. And so kaitiakitanga is a really key way that we are doing that. And so just to give you a few examples of what we have been doing, despite all the challenges that we face as an Indigenous group, we have taken the colonial system and used it against them, which is good. We have educated ourselves in 2 worlds to do this. And so the first one here is Te Uruwera Act of 2014, which made this beautiful forest a person. Which means that you have to see it like you see me right now. And if you hurt me, then I can come after you. And so now the forest has legal representation of itself. If anything happens to it, it can take you to court. And so for the Tūhoi people, whom, are the kaitiaki of this forest, this was a great step forward. To them, this forest is the center of the earth. It is their hearting beat. It's their beating heart. And so for them, this was a step forward to showing that how we see the world, everyone else can too. And then in 2018, this law was amended to include the protection of our endemic flora and fauna, and also creating knowledge that can be passed on that has the cultural identity of all who currently reside in the forest. And so this was just one way that the Tūhoi people were able to exercise their kaitiakitanga in their beloved forest. On the other side, we have Te Awatupua Act. And so this is a river, a beautiful river in the Whanganui region. It's called the Whanganui River. And their people had been living on it for hundreds and hundreds of years. And unfortunately, over those years, that colonization has led to the degradation of that river. But however, that was their source of life. They have a proverb where ko au ko te awa ko au. The river is me and I am the river. Just showing again how connected we are with our environment, with our nature, because that is our place in the world. And unfortunately, early on, they had built a dam at the headwaters of that river. And for Māori, the head is sacred. And so this really denigrated its mauri, its mana, its power for the people to live on. And then in 2017, this river became a person. It became the thing that we already knew. We knew that this was our ancestor. This was our tupuna. And so we're using those legal frameworks to really bring to the forefront that these are very special treasures because they are part of us and they will be a part of the next generations coming. And so this is just one way that my tribes are trying to do this, to make sure that our kaitiakitanga is respected and also that we can bring everyone along on that journey as well. Going over time. Yep. The other thing that I wanted to show is that we are also doing a lot of projects, which are iwi and hapu led. So the tribes and the sub-tribes are leading these projects because we are fed up with council regulations or council limitations, the red tape. And this one's actually really close to my hometown. It's not my hometown, but it's close enough. And it's the Uawanui project where their community was like, this is our river, we need to restore its Māori and we're going to do that. And so they did this in multiple ways along their river and their coastline. to make sure that they were able to act as kaitiaki of their treasure in restoring the Māori and its habitat. And so because for them, the soils and the climate that they needed weren't there anymore to grow their own food. This is a very rural community. I think there's one supermarket. So a lot of us are using our resources as well, but we're also trying to protect those resources for the future generations, particularly from overfishing, and then also land degradation. So we're actually losing our land to the water. And then we also wanted to increase the cultural importance of food and making sure we had access, but this was also access to other plants like our medicines, particularly flax. I love to weave. And this was also important to the people there because they were using it as a resource to form their baskets. And for us, again, as most Indigenous people, water is crucial. It is sacred. You usually do a karakia before you go in. You do a blessing to the god, and then you go in. And so this is just another way that different communities within Aotearoa, New Zealand, are trying to exercise their kaitiakitanga because we all have that whakapapa to one another, and we're trying to restore their Māori. So I'm just going to skip that one because I just said it. But this is my last slide, and I just wanted to leave you with this other proverb, which is whatungaronga ro te tangata, toitu te whenua. As man disappears from sight, the land remains. And so this just points out that being here is a great step forward, and I know that everyone is going to go back into their communities recharged to make sure that the land does remain, regardless of whether we are here or not. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Kia ora.